So this question is from Kieran Patrick. Thanks again. Great advice. Thank you, but not financial advice, obviously. Do your own research. I'm invested in HEX and current thinking is to wait for Pulsechain, then swap the copied HEX for PLS. I like what liquid loans are doing, and the plan is to then lock that up with them to take a loan against. Have you looked at this? And what are your thoughts? Many thanks. First of all, Kieran Patrick, thank you for the question. That is a very good question, very thought-provoking. As far as the trading, as far as swapping the copied over HEX for Pulse, I wish I had a crystal ball. I wish I could tell you the price of HEX in 2 years and the price of Pulsechain in 2 years. So really there's no way of knowing if it's a good deal or not because you don't know what the returns are going to be over the next 2, 5, 10, 15 years. In my opinion, just from that standpoint, I don't think it's a good idea to do that. Another thing is that everyone's planning on doing that because everyone says that the HEX on Pulsechain is going to be the PRC20 with the most liquidity. I don't know if that's true. And if everybody's trying to dump it, I certainly don't feel confident that I would get a good deal on HEX for Pulsechain in comparison to other ERC20s. Also, holding HEX now, being that HEX is an ERC20, and this applies to all ERC20s, like even holding Chainlink or anything else for the launch to swap over your copies. These are volatile assets and we're in a bear market. So for example, had you been holding your HEX since May when we originally thought Pulsechain would launch, you're down 50, 75% on your buying power. So I don't like the idea of holding HEX or any regular ERC20 like Chainlink, like Aave, like Axie Infinity in order to swap over your free copy. Because while it's nice you're getting a free copy, which will have value, the fact that between now and when Pulsechain launches, which nobody has any idea when it is, you are exposed to the risk of the depreciation makes it, in my opinion, not a good idea, not a good play. Obviously not financial advice, but I don't think it's a good play. And while yes, HEX has gone down a lot, so your risk to the downside is likely lower, it still can go down more. Obviously, there is the possibility that it'll go up and, you will get a better trade. I just don't think it's a good idea to ratio trade. It's gambling. And what if I told you my Pulsechain launch strategy would be to take my $10,000, go to Vegas, play some blackjack and, turn it into $20,000, turn it to $100,000 and then use that to buy Pulsechain. I mean, obviously it's a silly example, but it just brings out the point that nobody knows whether or not you have a good trade or not until it's too late. Most Hexicans understand that trading is degenerate and pretty much gambling and you will likely lose all your money. But then when it comes to the Pulsechain launch, all the common sense that comes along with locking up your HEX and not trading it just goes out the window when it comes to the Pulsechain launch. It's gambling. There's no way really of knowing. You could come out on top, but usually when you try and time the market, it doesn't work out well because you get emotional. So I would not recommend it. Another thing is if you are holding HEX liquid waiting for the launch, it is not staked. You are not earning interest on this. Not only are you at risk of the price depreciation, you're also not getting the 38% APY, which you could be earning. So I just don't think it's a good play. It might work out well for you, but it likely won't, especially considering the fact that we're dealing with a situation that is completely unknown. This Pulsechain launch in terms of valuations of PRC20s is the great unknown, which is why my play, not financial advice, is stablecoins. Why? Because when you hold stablecoins in your MetaMask, provided that they don't go UST, which is why I would recommend holding a diverse portfolio of stablecoins. Stablecoins are pretty much a given that they will retain their buying power between now and when Pulsechain launches. Not only that, with stablecoins, you're also going to get a copied over PRC20. Whether or not it'll be more valuable than any other ERC20 like Chainlink, like Aave, we don't know, but it is certainly possible. And whatever value you get and you get to swap for your Pulse or PulseX or PHEX is on the house. It's free of charge. And then you get to retain your buying power with those stablecoins and you get to bridge them over and dollar cost average into Pulsechain or PulseX. So I think the best thing you could do is have a level head, dump your copy of stablecoins on the house for Pulsechain or PulseX, and then bridge in those ERC20 stablecoins, which will keep their peg because they could always be bridged out and redeemed for US dollars, and just dollar cost average into the project of your choice. As far as liquid loans is concerned, So while I'm not fluent in the code behind liquid loans, I know that the protocol allows you to extract value from your Pulsechain without selling it in a trustless way, no admin keys, which is excellent. I also know that it is a fork of Liquidity, which has been up for over a year at least. I don't know exactly. And it's been running well. Obviously, there's going to be modifications, and we don't know, just because Liquidity is running well now doesn't mean there won't be bugs in the future. But it is safe to say that the longer these projects run, meaning Liquidity and liquid loans, the less likely it is that there is risk of defects in the code. In the beginning, I definitely would not use liquid loans for two reasons. It's a new project. Since it is new, there is the possibility that, there is a bug. I'm not saying there will be. Also, there's the volatility. There could easily be these 95, 96% corrections that leave you liquidated and your exposure to Pulsechain is gone. Also, yeah, there's also people are concerned about the risk of the depeg, which happened in UST, which was another algorithmic stablecoin, albeit liquid loans would tell you that their project requires an over collateralization, which I don't believe was the case in Luna. So it is less likely of it losing its peg, but what's the rush? Why not wait a year or two? Pulsechain will become less volatile, and also for these projects to prove themselves as legitimate. You shouldn't be putting more money into Pulsechain than you could afford to lose, meaning you should have cash in order to take care of yourself and your needs, or else you shouldn't be buying Pulsechain. And if you have the cash to take care of yourself, what would be the rush to quickly throw your bag into an unknown protocol with the risk of liquidation in order to get a loan? Following a decent period of time, whether or not you personally should take a loan against it, I mean, there are a lot of things that it depends on. It's not really a simple question, but I would say I definitely think it's important to be responsible, meaning to be over collateralized by maybe 9 times what you're borrowing. Meaning if you want to take a loan against $1 million worth of Pulsechain, you should maybe take a $50,000 loan. Borrowing against cryptos is very risky because of the volatility. You could easily get liquidated, which will cause a taxable event and will also take away your exposure to the fastest appreciating asset. I think if you have very little money, there are better ways to get money, meaning if you need $1,000, $5,000, there are easier ways to get it than to borrow against it with the risk of liquidation. So if you have very little money, why would you want to risk liquidation for a couple $1,000s if they could potentially turn into millions over the next couple of years? I just don't think it's a good idea. I don't think it's responsible. But if you have millions and millions of dollars worth of Pulsechain and selling would make you face slippage and you want to keep that exposure, it's definitely reasonable to put in $500,000 worth of Pulsechain and take a loan of $50,000, $40,000. I think that would be definitely something that you would want to look into. I think it's good for you because you get to extract liquidity and you get to keep your exposure to the fastest appreciating asset. So in short, using liquid loans to extract liquidity is something that would vary based on your situation, where you're going to be. I definitely would not recommend doing it in the early days just because of risk of volatility, as well as the fact that it is a new protocol. Over long periods of time, when your bag appreciates significantly and you could extract liquidity with a small percentage of it, I do think it is something to look into, certainly. So to summarize, in terms of ratio trading, I don't think it's a good idea for Hex. There is risk to the downside. You can lose buying power between now and when Pulsechain launches. Same applies to all ERC20s. It is not good for the Hex price if people are dumping their copies over once it launches. And the fact that everyone's doing it makes it very unlikely that you are going to get a good ratio. The fact that you're holding it liquid waiting for the launch, you're not going to earn the yield from staking. I believe that the best thing to do, in my opinion, not financial advice, would be to buy stable coins, hold them in your wallet, and when Pulsechain launches, you dump the free copy on the house, you bridge in your ERC20 stable coins, which are pegged to the dollar, and you just dollar cost average into the asset of your choice. As far as liquid loans, the idea is great. The project definitely has product market fit. It's been running well on Ethereum. Obviously, it is a new project on Pulsechain, and there is going to be risks involved in putting your money into smart contracts. We know other smart contracts have had bugs, and also Pulsechain is going to be very volatile. So especially if you don't have a lot of money and you're going to have to put a significant percentage of your bag of PLS into this new protocol with the risk of liquidation for a very small amount of money would be very silly. I think there's better ways to get cash. much. But in the future, once this project has proven itself that it is safe and secure, the USDL could keep its peg and your bag appreciates to the point where you have tens of millions of dollars, which in crypto is very possible to achieve with very little money. I do think it is something to consider when it comes to using a small amount of your bag, meaning let's say you could use 1/10 of your bag to get a $50, $60, $100,000 loan. I think that's definitely something you want to consider. I think borrowing against your fastest appreciating asset, it's something that the wealthy do. You get exposure to liquidity, tax-free, and for a very small fee of 2 to 5%. So that's what I'd say about that. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you for your question, Kieran Patrick. Please like, subscribe, comment, and follow me on Twitter. Thank you very much.